Es normal que cuando te cepillas los dientes pienses en tus cosas. Lo que no es normal es la inflamación y enrojecimiento en tus encías, porque pueden ser síntomas de gingivitis. Gingilácer, con la fórmula exclusiva de Laboratorios Láser, actúa desde los primeros síntomas y reduce el sangrado gengival en menos de 48 horas. Cada día Gingilácer. Encías sanas, pocas sanas.
Can you hear me? I think I was kind of trying the last moment stuff. Hey. How are you doing? It's a bit later than I wanted to do, but I really needed some sleep. So apologies for that. I mean, I could be singing. I could, but I'm not sure if you would want me to go ham on that. Okay. I think things are... So it's a bit like improvised stream. I do have a lot of things that I should kind of adjust for, not just for these streams, but also for the upcoming game streams that we have planned with the chat and stuff. But yeah, I do have to put some time into that, and I don't usually stream. That's the thing, so you'll excuse the not accustomed quality of lore lines that you're accustomed to. All you have is my talking meowth avatar. Okay, so my intention today was going to go through lyric analysis if you wanted, and listening to some music of 14. But like I've told you before, I'm up for just chill, listen to music streams. So yeah, there's that, and sometimes just chilling, sharing music. I would perhaps be up for accepting requests for you guys for not just for Final Fantasy themes, but also another games. It's something that it's been a long time since I've been able to share music with well anyone like proper, and I would be thrilled to share with you guys if you're interested in all this stuff. So yeah. Uh, there's a lot to cover in lyric analysis, especially from my current uh, speculation venue. There's a lot, so I'm not sure where to even begin. I have my lyric master file that I do have to keep working on. It's just that it's stopping me, the fact that sometimes just analyzing lyrics in not my native language can be quite imposing and all that. So yeah, I do need to tackle this like proper. So the thing about going through the song lyrics for research, it's also going to take a long time because there's a lot. It kind of needs a required context, and some of the music. I don't really want to go into the details of how music works. So most of the time, the music and the flow of the music is going to tell you something about the vibe of the lyrics. This is something I shared with Neela when analyzing From the Heavens. This is Final Omega. It's like but it's a long story about that. But I'm going to stop this theme here. Okay. So yeah. And for the people on YouTube, it's not two streams. This is basically kind of me doing my thing with music and stuff. Well, be welcome to my Madcap music stream. Give me a moment. Okay. So, no, I'm not taking over. So, okay. I think we have enough people around here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my improvised stream of sorts. I would be up for doing this tomorrow again. I'm also not very much a good talker, so if I get stuck or anything like that, please bear with me. I really have a hard time speaking to people on my own. So, so yeah. So if we're going to go through lyric analysis, the thing with lyric analysis, as of I am now, is related to my current speculation as per the unholy file. So if you don't have context on the unholy file or my current venue of speculation, perhaps it's going to be a bit difficult to understand where I'm coming from. I'm up for giving you a very abridged version of my speculation, or if you guys want to go through the lyrics. Thank you, Arden. Sorry for the bother. I'm so as we go and as we. I can speak of what I think, but it could get a bit long. If so, I'm not sure whether you want me to give you the abridged version of my speculation or or I don't know. I like I said, I can't really go into the depth of it because there's like over 250 pages of that. So but I don't really mind, and like I said, I'm doing this because I appreciate you guys' insights and some stuff, that some meanings that perhaps escape me, the details, the nuances of English that, well, Englishing when you're not native speakers can be a bit complex, I suppose. I understand the context, but sometimes it's like, this surely has some connotation that I'm not picking up. So, okay. I mean, part of my speculation you've already heard in the live podcasts. But I tend to drop very few things as to not overwhelm the whole discussion, because we're a team, and all in all, it's going to be my speculation. So I don't really want to. Thank you, Sent. So I mean, I could read the bullet points of my lyric analysis file. I could read that, but still, I say it's bullet points when it's actually, let me check, because it's a kind of bullet points. Okay, premises. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's a whole lot of speculation. I can read you these bullet points if you want, and the disclaimer at the beginning of the lyrical analysis file, just to okay, just to spare my crewmates from the too overly madcap and crazy stuff going on here. And of course, so the thing about this is not exactly going to be so much as a discussion episode. So I don't really want to come across as dismissing. I don't. It's just that for analyzing these lyrics, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this as a guideline, and if you guys have a different interpretation, of course, you're most welcome to share them. But this is going to be more like a guideline. Like, if you read these lyrics with this scope, we can work on them, right? So it's not like I'm discouraging you guys to not have your own interpretation of where the story Dawn Trail onwards is going to lead, but more like I'm going to use this scope, and if you guys can give me insights, then of course it's going to be definitely great. So if you guys are ready and willing to operate in these quote-unquote terms, then I can start reading the bullet points and the disclaimer, of course. Okay. I'm going to start reading the disclaimer first. I'm ShadowMeowth again. I'm going to read directly. Should this file be shared and or discussed, note that this is my personal and current venue of speculation. The Lorelines crew as a whole is not to be criticized for the conclusions drawn here. These conclusions are subject to change and development as this new arc starting from Dawn Trail advances through the patches, so nothing ventured in this interpretation is final. This being said, this is a great effort of cross-referencing, interpretation, and meta-narrative reading in here, so whether the reader agrees or disagrees with my takes, know that they're not coming from nothing, and that there are facts from which to build from the bulk of this speculation. Again, I must stress that while I consult the Lorelines crew for their insights and counter-arguments, the speculations rest on my shoulders, and the team is not responsible for the madcap and crazy you will find here. So, disclaimer said. as to not as to not draw my crewmates very arguably clearly more grounded than I am. Mm. Okay. So, the premises I will base my analysis will be the angle of my current speculation and the key points of it summarized in this comment. It's actually more than one comment, but as a guideline for my observations. If I talk too fast, please tell me to please tell me to slow down. So far, we haven't have been attacked for this kind of stuff, but to be fair, we haven't had so much of an audience up until now, so it's kind of difficult to say how the how the fan base may react. And some comments in our recent videos have been I'm not sure how to describe them, and we know we're not the only team that's been happening to, so I want to keep the rest of the crew away from controversies. I'm just playing safe here. I'm willing to bear the brunt. Okay, so I'm going to proceed to read the guidelines, which is, like I said, it's 3 comments. Okay. So, Ultima as the main antagonist from the story arc, combining motivations from evolution lore, Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy XVI, and the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, as 16 Ultima is based on Universa from the Fabula Nova Crystallis series. So, we're going to be operating with Ultima. It's going to be the staple. Well, yeah. We have that video, we have the threads, we have well, all that stuff. So so in the Ultima video, the team decided to cut that part away because it was not it was not strictly Ultima, but Ultima in Final Fantasy 16 is taken from is based on Final Fantasy 13's Universal. It's a dead giveaway. It's there. Final Fantasy 16 is Final Fantasy 13. It's how it is. So the next Zodiac, primordial Zodiac from Evolution lore, not the primal, as the real quote unquote god of Aetherius and thus a true land. I said god. It's not exactly. I believe Zodiac is sex. Primordial Zodiac would be exactly a god, but let's go with that. It's more complex, quote unquote, because of nuances that I will elaborate on in this analysis. Blah blah blah. Well, the whole thing about Zodiac, snakes, snaky. So the following point would be Ultima as Master of Time and Zodiac as Master of Space. Together they would grant dominion over space-time. This is kind of a bit of speculating on a bit of cosmology, physics stuff. But if Ultima is able to control time and Zodiac controls space, this is actually mostly based on Dawn Trail telling us that serpents are the guardians of the boundaries between dimensions. So as I was kind of pondering of that, it would make sense to me that Zodiac has power over space, over dimensions, the boundaries of dimensions, and Ultima may have time powers. So yeah, because of the whole Storia Crux, the whole thing. Well, yeah, it's the Storia Crux that manifests through the Grail. Blah blah blah. Well, you get that. You don't have to believe that. It's just that I'm exposing the the whole thing. If there is this prisoner of a repeating time cycle loop, time cycle, whatever. It possibly began the moment history was first written. Perhaps the precursors of the ancients, as we know them, may be the original convocation of 14. I'm not that sure on that point, because I think the actual real point would be this sundering, but I'm open about this point. But I do believe that history was rewritten at some point before things. So, and yeah. Ultima, Zodiac, and the rest of the Lucavi came to Aetherius in an age before the ancients, possibly fleeing a catastrophe in their homeworld. I actually reached that point by comparing them to the Milala fleeing the source and reaching the whatever timeline reflection it is that they reach. So yeah, I think that Sundering would be. I'm not sure if it would be the starting point of the cycle, but definitely I would say it's the point in which the many timeline branches that Alexander speaks of started, because it's instead of having just one world, then you divide the world in 14, and then timelines start spreading like crazy. So that's one of the things that's kind of like at the back of my mind, the Sundering breaking reality so much that they actually broke time itself, which is something that happens in Final Fantasy 13 too. But let's keep going. So again, Ultima Zodiac and the rest of the Lucavi came to the Theris in an age before the Ancients, possibly fleeing the catastrophe on their homeworld. If Theris was populated by a mortal precursor race, the Lucavi's arrival may have sparked conflict between the two. This part was kind of part of me tying this to Heaven's Word, as we're going backwards. It's like whole mess that, but yeah, I'm going a bit I'm summarizing so much of in here. So the ancients may have been born from the union of a mortal precursor race man and a divine quote unquote Lucavi woman. I posit that they are the first Azem and the first Ametzelk, and they are the origin of the legend of Azim and Nama. This is due to the sheer amount of references to Azem and Hades in Dawn Trail, linking them to dawn and dusk. So this point requires a lot of meta narrative. There's many visuals in here involved. So if you want to believe that point or not, I don't really mind. It would take a lot to explain and expose, and if you want to do that, you can ask me for the unholy file. So take it or leave it. I don't really. This point, the thing is, the point it comes up in the lyrics, but it could be It could be other things. Just leave it at that. Okay, following the point above with the introduction of blessed siblings, I posit that Hades is the reincarnation of the first Ametzelk, bearing also the soul of the first Azem merged with his own. This is because I theorize that his soul is a result of the merging of two souls, because of the whole ethereal power, which is even not normal even for the ancients. But this is. The how I don't know. I kind of see the threat, but believe it or not, without going into visuals and themes hinted at this, it would explain the extraordinary. I got ahead of myself. It would explain the extraordinary ethos that he possesses, notably amongst the ancients. Okay. So more bullet points. I know there's a lot. I know. It's just, and it's a summary. It's all of this is in the unholy file. Azem may have been descended by bloodline from the first Azem for the first time itself, operating from this hypothesis, of course. The key being in shape of a grail is not a symbolic choice, as the Holy Grail is associated with the blood of Jesus, but in Gnostic beliefs is a metaphor for Mary Magdalene as the womb that bore the bloodline of Jesus. This I'm so familiar with, because this is a core theme in Line Returns Final Fantasy 13. So I'm so familiar with it. When the moment I saw the key in the shape of Grail, I was like, this is a reference to the Holy Grail. So so yeah. So it's loaded. Okay, let's keep going. I thought this may be a splinter of the first Ametzelk soul, perhaps already merged with the first Azem, in which case he would bear a bit of both souls. Questlines in Dawn Trail referencing Hades, featuring characters with physical features very similar to Hitler's. So this is something I actually noticed, that so many meta-narrative characters meant to reference Hades have actually physical traits from Hitler's. So, and it would match a certain plot point in Line Returns about soul splintering from another character. So I'm keeping this as speculation. I'm not sure if I would put my hand on the fire for it, but I'm keeping it because I noticed that there's so many characters that reference Hades in side quests and role quests do have uh, traits similar to Hephaestus. So I mean, the whole thing about them is being Gemini the twins, so kind of like, well, twins, you know. So okay, so right, the convocation glyphs. We do have a video coming up on that. Referred as the Crimson Burn by Hydaelyn or Realm Reborn, serve each as a fragment of knowledge about Ultima and the key to purge her corruption. I reached this idea actually before I realized that we did have a we did have the keystones arc in the Rite of Succession, in which we have to complete the tablets to access the Golden City. So it would be there's also the fact that Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac, he has 12 wings, each one for each um, well symbol of the zodiac. So it would be kind of fitting, I suppose, that in order to achieve the ultimate knowledge about Ultima or the secret or the seal or whatever, you have to combine all of the brands together as to form like a massive seal. It would be I don't know, I think it would be cool that the convocation as their own works as their own seal. So surveys as a fragment of knowledge about Ultima and the key to purge her corruption. The key to purge her corruption, we saw that in Pandemonium. That Lahabrea needed his full complete soul and the brand to purge Ultima's corruption, Athena, but Ultima, from hegemony. Akin to the Enigma Codex in the Alexander Raids and related to Bedminster and blah, yeah. As may be the final key to the knowledge and perhaps Bergeno brand or the Black Masked Asians brand, and the seed's true purpose is to become the vessel of said knowledge of all the convocation glyphs in order to access and destroy Ultima. This is very much speculation at this point, but take it or leave it. Again, it's one of those things that I think, but I'm not sure if it will be the case. Okay, if you hear ruckus around here, it's my cats. They're playing, so apologies for that. Okay. Death and memory cleansing keeps Ultima at bay if her power and existence is tied to mankind's cognition and the concept of deity. If ennui and monotony makes her corruption fester, it could be possible that the Asian's role in the rise and fall of civilizations and sowing chaos and discord is necessary to prevent her corruption. However, how much the Asians know themselves is questionable. This last part is because there was a plot point in Dawntrail that, for example, the Hanu Hanu had forgotten the purpose of their own rituals that they kept doing without knowing the reason behind. So I could see that perhaps ignorance is the shield of the members of the convocation, but over time they forgot what the purpose of it. So this is kind of tying things together. Take it or leave it. The death and memory cleansing, I do believe it's important because if imagine that Ultima grows basically stronger, the clearer concept of her you have in mind over time, the concept as in a deity or some, but every time you go down cleansing, then you forget. So it could be like death and memory cleansing could be one thing that prevents Ultima from festering too much, but and it would make sense as to why she would want to destroy the concept of death as an eternal existence. So yeah, there's many things here, and also the fear of death is almost taken straight up from Final Fantasy 13. Okay, the thing, this is one of the parts that I know that people, so the fan bases now would come at me and protest the whole thing. Vena was corrupted by Ultima, the pattern in the sky, and P12S appearing in Thalia is a strong indication of this. It is. I don't make the rules here. I didn't put that stupid symbol in Thalia. That's in Pallas Athena's arena. If the brands of the convocation offer protection about Ultima and Primal Zodiac's blueprint was corrupted by Lahabria's own corruption, Vena uses the same blueprint to conceive Hydaelyn. However, Themis as the core did have the brand, whereas Vena did not. Even if the seat of Azem bore a brand, she must have passed it down to Azem as part of the succession rites. So, the whole thing, it could be kind of poetic, it could be kind of karma, that the thing that actually could have possibly fucked up Vena was her clinging to life. I was kind of considering maybe the convocation's tradition of returning to the star after they finish, they choose a successor. Maybe it has a more important meaning than just I'm done, I'm out. Maybe it's because they are exposed to Ultima corruption. So, again, maybes, but the whole thing about the symbol in PS12 appearing in Thalea, it's beyond concerning. There's a reason why the team freaked out when we came across that. Okay, more things. Okay, Atheris is encased in a fake sky that works a glamour source to the power light. I did speak of this today's stream. Behind this shell of normalcy lies the true state of the world, so to speak, an illusion of a paradise inside a cage trapped in a time loop. I know there could be many nuances to this, but the core concept of it, I think it still stands. So this is kind of like my own conclusion. How it's made, or the details. I'm not really one for details. I speak of themes, so take it or leave it, in the sense of I do believe this is what is going on, but not as I described it, if it makes any sense. Okay. Oh, this next one. Okay, Azem and Hades have been part of this fate for many cycles and outcomes, very likely forced to kill each other by the fates imposed onto them, breaking from fate, and finding a path to walk together will become a core theme into this story arc. So there's so many allusions to merging paths, how things could have been different, and the whole thing about the cycles, it's taken from Type 0, and the characters that actually are part of inspiration for the Warrior of Light, Azem and Hades, Machina and Rem. So this is, if they're going into the Type 0 overarching references, it's something to bear in mind. Like, it could have been something that they've been repeating over and over and over, with each one of them eventually being ending the same outcome of being forced to kill each other. So yeah. Okay, so next one, the world may be too corrupted by Ultima for saving as it is. The only solution ahead might be rewriting Atheris' history and reality entirely. This is taken from the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy. My concept of Ace is not exactly a new world altogether, but more like the merging of two worlds, in the sense of merging two timelines, or merging the standard world with the world in standard. We have seen when the twinning and all that stuff. This is where I see what I see happening, for a number of reasons. You can take it or leave it. Again, it's the scope I'm working with. Okay, this quote-unquote new world would be a merging of the standard Atheris and the world in standard, the city of gold at Journey's End being Amarut itself, described as gleaming and depicted under a golden hue in P11's background. I do believe it's possible that by the end of this arc, we have the normal, the world we're kind of used to, but instead in the horizon we see the real Amarut as part of the world again, in a world in which the ancients and the Sunder can coexist as the whole mankind. It's a theme brought up in Roll Quest as well, and the whole plot. I can't speak. Fuck. Of Tuliyola is basically that. It's a union of cultures as together. So yeah, okay. And the last point: no memory of the War of Light. The Asians, Hydra, and Zodiac will remain in this new world free from the gods, leaving Asem bar the War of Light and Hades free to choose, free from their duty and fate to choose to live their lives as themselves. Is This is kind of how where to see the story going for a number of reasons. But yeah. Uh, so uh, so that's basically the summary of the scope. Like I said, if you guys are interested, you can contact me privately about the unholy file, which is my current how I got to these conclusions. But the work of the work really done there is following the threads. The conclusions may be different, but the following of the thread is actually the real work there. I'm not I'm not really confident about openly sharing it publicly. So that's why if you want to read that, if you want, you can just ping me and say I'm interested, and then I will DM you and I will give you the link. But I'm not confident enough to post this thing in like publicly. So yeah. So the closing point would be there are many nuances to this point, but for understanding the analysis angle, this should suffice. So yeah, I hope it wasn't too much to digest, but that's basically the core points as to how to analyze these lyrics. I chose these points because these are actually the points. Oh, damn it! These are actually the points uh, made in. Where the fuck are the comments? Okay. I messed up the file. Sorry. Uh, Curses. Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Okay. So I don't really know which if there's a lyric theme from 14 that you're interested in. Feel free to share because I don't really know where to begin. I have like this list here, and it's like the one I actually have analyzed that I run with Nila. Nila helped me to kind of polish this one and discuss this one. The one I have fully analyzed is from the Heavens, Final Omega. So I don't know. That's the one I actually have analyzed, but I can start with whatever. Pick one. Pick one. Do you guys want to go through Locus first, Alexander? Normal? Well, normal, Alexander, with this thing in mind, in which the cycle of the cycle and all that stuff. Locus is actually a trip. So I'm going to try and put this thing on the. Okay. Oh, no, I didn't want this thing here. Sorry. I wanted this one. There we go. I hate the fact that we can't really. Okay. Can you see it? I mean, it's not the best solution here, but I do what I can do basically. There we go, more or less. Okay. Okay, let's go with Locus first. Of course, I'm going to give credits to the people who compiled the lyrics and in the videos. So okay, let's see. There we go. I mean, we can just first go. Okay, you can't read it. And I mean, anyways, after listening to the lyrics, we're going to go verse by verse. So it's fine if it's fine. So don't worry. If you can just enjoy the music for its sake. That's my intention first. As to because my idea is that you guys. I mean, I suppose I could do that too, but I mean, it's the file, and I would have to scroll. Some lyrics are long, so I would have to scroll too much, so it's kind of difficult. So, in any case, I would want to kind of make this exercise a sort of yeah, it's kind of like an exercise. I don't really want you guys to believe what I'm telling you immediately. I gave you the guidelines, but I want you guys to make your own conclusions as you read the lyrics or listen to the lyrics first. And then I tell you what I think, and then we can share ideas if it's all right by you guys. Because I appreciate it more when you first reach a conclusion that's not influenced by anyone else, if it makes sense. I basically gave you the guidelines I'm going to work with, but I want to kind of expand your horizons. No, I kind of want to pick your brains, is all. Okay. I'm going to. If it's too loud, please tell me. Okay, let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Locus. Credits to Hungry Chat for the lyrics and stuff. I mean, not for the lyrics per se, but the effort of putting the lyrics in the video and all that. Singing the piece of reason, shaping a peaceless season, reason to keep believing, waking the beast to sleeping. No sound? Fuck. Give me a moment. There's sound? Okay.
escaping from this waking dream, no hope for repair. You see, the mortal core is serving not but a spring. Unwind, too slow, too quick, too much to believe. You fail the test, ever forging all new fantasies, creating a mess direct. Through this brick machine with all of the rest, DC, dying, electricity. Falling back right into the system, falling back on all materials. We're falling back right out of the system, it's falling back right into the space. It's falling back right into the system.
Here goes to the loop again. So basically, the lyrics we already have. It's a banger. Locus, I love it. I was kind of headbanging here, but yeah, it's a trip. Let me. Can you see the file, the lyric analysis master file? Please tell me. Please tell me. Yes. Okay. Locus. Where do I have locus here? Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's a lot in there in this context, especially if we're basically considering the whole thing about Ultima seeking a form of peace, stasis, stagnancy, form, an endless existence, if you will. Not wing wing. So, in that context, so let's go. Let's make a read first. Okay, seeking the peace of reason, sheep in a peaceless season, reason to keep believing. Waken the beast who's sleeping. That's a loaded statement there. So, seeking the peace of reason. Let's start from the beginning. Seeking the peace of reason. The peace of reason is an interesting concept. It's how many of you guys have watched the Matrix films? I did, but a long time ago. I had to go through a summary of the plot recently to refresh my mind, but it was a long time ago. The last time I actually watched them. Okay, so in Matrix, you basically have a concept that's actually taken. I think it was from Freud or Nietzsche. I don't know. I actually don't know which philosopher was, but it's the whole thing about the red pill and the blue pill. The red pill is the one that shows you reality, is the concept of reality, and the blue pill is the concept of conformity, of abiding to remain as you are in peace, and the red pill would confront you to the harshness of reality as it is. It's in Matrix is treated well in regards to the plot of the story, but it's actually a more it's an older concept than the movie itself. So, so the piece of reason would be to me that principle of conformity, seeking the peace sheep in a peaceless season. The sheep is basically the concept of the lamb to the slaughter. Again, Pandemonium lyrics. in a peaceless season. You're basically a sheep in a world which actually conflicted in a peaceless season. But you believe that you're at peace. It's basically the belief. This song is so much about perception of belief, actually. Uh, Reason to keep believing. Waken the beast who's sleeping. This line can be this two stanza here can be a bit difficult to analyze for me because the wakened beast who's sleeping could mean two things in my current venue of speculation. One could be Ultima, but I think that Ultima has been kind of awake all this time and observing us with the whole eye motive. I think Ultima is kind of present in so many ways that we don't realize, but but we can't see her, and that's another different fuel of paranoia, especially if she grows in people's minds and she uses the people themselves as her eyes. That's a concept that's actually really, really creepy. Waken the beast who's sleeping in my current speculation could be Zodiac. I mean, primordial Zodiac, as the land and as part of the land. I do think there's Zodiac is not or was not born as the land, but at some point I do think he might have merged with the land. It's kind of difficult to explain here, but it's the whole thing about the serpent that lies that eats the serpent coiling around the world, the boundaries of dimensions, the snake being a symbol of the underworld in Greek mythology, and serpent being also a symbol of healing, of cycles, and all that stuff. Uh, Reason to keep believing, waking the beast is sleeping. Uh, so yeah. I would not say I'm not aiming this speculation with Asian stuff. I'm kind of encouraging bit of think outside the box, if it makes sense. Think a bit outside the box of not the box we're being stuck all this time, but thinking more like beyond that. Beyond that. I see your point though, but we're operating with kind of this guideline maybe. Reason to keep believing this. Sometimes, so you see, sometimes lyrics in English puzzle me because it's kind of omitting pronouns and articles. It's like I'm not sure the structure of this line uh, could be. Of course, yeah, I know it's Hemsworth, but I'm thinking of these lyrics as in backwards writing. If they're actually indeed, as I suspect, they're going backwards from Shadowbringers in Dawn Trail, quote unquote, into Stormblood, into Heavensward, and going to start on the Neo story or this new world, this new reality as a new realm reborn. So yeah, I'm not thinking as of this in past context, but how they could build a plot from these lyrics, which is the thing that's actually my point here. It's like it's not. It surely was not what they had in mind back then, but as of going forward, that's the thing that interests me. And to be fair, we say I don't think they planned this, but at some points I do have to question it because it's like how long have you been building this concept? but because sometimes it lines too well. But aside from that, let's go from the assumption that they are doing what they do best, which is backwards writing. So okay. I do want to think snake. I do want to think snake too. Waking the beast to sleeping. Yeah, Ultima. Yeah, I do think Ultima was something that they started to go deeper into as of Stormblood, which is actually second expansion of the game proper. I mean, it's four. Anyways, you get what I'm trying to say. But so it was fairly early on, in a sense, quote unquote, fairly early, but it's still there. Fuck. Oh. So, reason to keep believing waking the beast who's sleeping. So, I do have kind of a theory. It's just an idea. Don't take it too seriously if you don't want to. It's kind of related to Final Fantasy Type 0. I think it's possible that come at a certain point in each cycle, Primordial Zodiac wakes up and tries to break the cycle, and kind of forces the reset as trying to find a way to break the wheel, so to speak, and defeat Ultima. Why and how, I can't tell. It's just the idea that gnaws at my mind that this is a cycle that's actually made by Zodiac, but not in a negative way, not the usual negative way. It's like trying to trying to find the perfect storm as to being able to break the wheel, but every time this new cycle fails, or maybe the Word of Light, maybe Hades, if they are indeed his hand, they fail. It kind of forces a reset and trying to find another way, as opposed to Ultima, who may want the loop or this stasis and stagnancy go endlessly, this illusion. So it could be something actually. I mean, it would be harsh, but not. I don't think it would be something done out of ill will. And again, this kind of ties with Type 0 and certain stuff with the whole thing. But I don't really want to spoil you Type 0. I mean, there's going to be spoilers here, but but yeah. So yeah, it was one of the things that in the prophecy of the Yokui, the thing about the snake molting and making a new cycle, and the pain it feels, it manifests in catastrophes around the world, and the molt and all that stuff, and it made me wonder if perhaps each new cycle, each new coil of the cycle may have actually been made out of Zodiac's very own being, and it's actually consuming him. Like it could be, I don't know. It's just ideas that I read stuff and I think like how could this manifest in story. So take it or leave it. Again, it's not something I'm willing to fight over it, but just so you know, my kind of state, my state of mind, so to speak. Okay, do you guys have any insight about this, basically? Any further insight? If you have perhaps a better reading of this, I don't know, just share your thoughts. Okay. You can also tell me if you think I'm reaching too far. I think it's with me. It's kind of a given that I'm going to be reaching too far. That's what I do in this crew. Okay. This one. Okay. Let go this destiny, you're caught in a trance, ever marking time inside a dream, no sign of advance. This is so interesting. Let go this, you're caught in a trance. The dream, ever marking time inside the dream, no sign of advance. No sign of advance? It could mean both the stagnancy of the light and Ultima, but could also mean the thing that it keeps looping, repeating, perhaps with minimal differences, but looping, repeating again and again and again. There's no real advance into the future. I mean, yeah, that's true. They actually use this theme in Shadowbringers and then Walker. That's true. Yeah. Let's go this Destiny. Destiny is is so much an interesting word because you can. It's a tricky word because you can use it to associate it with fate, but it's actually not the same as fate. Destiny could also mean a destination, as in a point you want to reach. So it's not entirely the same thing as fate. So you're caught in a trance, ever marking time inside an illusion. Yeah, you're caught. It's basically it's the same. The mortal coil we serve is thought like spring. Thought is a word. I kind of know the context of the word, but maybe there's some nuance that it's kind of escaping me. Mortal coil is thought. Thought is like tense, maybe tense. I don't really. I know it's something like tense, but I don't really know the real definition of it. Okay, under tension, tight. So, like in a spring, so when you have a spring, is when you have a spring is like the the compressed version of the coil or the spring or the extended version of the spring. As to have a mental image, more or less, like thought. So so like I don't know how to explain it. I hate explaining these things in my mind. So you have a spring. Okay, under pressure. Okay, under pressure. Okay. Ready to spring. Reserve. The mortal coil is still like spring. Ready to spring. Okay. Step back. Step back. This is the whole thing that I keep seeing as going backwards. Step back. Two step. Two step. Two step. Two step. Two step. One, two, three. It's interesting because two step. Taking two steps as we go back as of now. I mean, depends on how you count this, but the whole concept of that one is another loaded one. Step back. Two step, two step, two step. One, two, three. One, two, three. Depends on how you read it. It could be Shadowbringers, Stormblood, Heavensward, or Stormblood, Heavensward, Around Reborn. I don't know. Could be in my context right now. It could be both. Two step, two step, two step. One, two, three. I mean, it could also be one, two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 6. It could be also. It could also be number 9 if you kind of 2 and 2 and 2. That's 6, and then you add 3, and that's 9. And so 9 is. I mean, it's not like the exact connotation, but in Fabula Nova Crystallis, especially in Type 0, the number 9 means the end, because there's some association with death and the end with the number 9 in Norse mythology. So so yeah. So yeah, there's that. Step back. There's the most important thing. Step back. As to what we have to do, like to what to release the spring, and I don't know if I'm making any sense though. You're basically having me here live going through my Yes, I know all of that is in the story of the lyrics themselves. What I'm trying to do, is applying them to a bigger scope. All of that, I know that the lyrics are about the storyline of Alexander, but I'm trying to do a meta narrative exercise here. It's not reading about what the lyrics are applied to in the storyline or the quest or the moment in which you are listening to them, but how they translate to the bigger scope of the story of this tale. Yeah, I mean, it's important to have the surface reading, but I'm trying to do something different here, because if we were going to if we were going to read all of this in a closed off sense, you wouldn't need me here. That's the thing. I mean, maybe you don't even need me for meta narrative reading, but that's what I do anyways. Okay. Steps. Okay. Okay. That's my reading anyway. Let go this destiny. Let go this destiny is interesting. Like again, destiny, fate in Don't Trail Onwards context. It brings me to the concept of the Lassie, the people who are branded with a focus, fate, purpose to fulfill, and I've mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this publicly, but the whole thing about the Warrior of Light. So in Fabula Nova Crystallis, in the series of Final Fantasy 13, it was the series were conceived to defy the concept of the Warriors of Light and the chosen by the crystal, by taking a twist on that concept and making them slaves of fate and of higher powers. It was a defiance theme that's been carried. It started in Final Fantasy 12, but then they doubled down on 13, and then it carried over throughout 15 and 16. Again, 16 is Final Fantasy 13. So, so yeah. So the whole thing about fate being chosen by higher powers, that's the thing that's kind of make me think of the Warrior of Light. And again, I mean, the champion of Hydaelyn, and then again to Hades, because he's addressed as the champion of the Zodiac, as being Lassie, equivalent to Lassie. Bound to a fate and a role and a purpose imposed onto them. That's and forced to fight each other, which is a part of Type 0 with Machina and Rem. So again, there's a lot of the thing that you don't see about why I'm reaching these conclusions. So. Okay, let's see. If you don't have anything to add, we can go into the next paragraph, stanza, whatever. Haha, this is a huge one, yes, but there's another one that's actually has to do with snakes. So we can go through that one later if you want, Thalia. Okay, let's go through the next one. Our world's a fantasy no more than a test, ever feeding off the fallacy creating this mess. This is really, really interesting to me. Our world's a fantasy no more than a test. The thing is, in Type 0, the cycle is actually a test. I suppose you don't mind spoilers. If you're minding Type 0 spoilers, then mute for a for a little while. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So in Type 0, the world of Oriens, the realm of Oriens, is actually subjected to a cycle that's been gone over 600 million times in an attempt to find the way to open the Gate of Souls by two servants of the falsy gods, Pauls and Lindsay. Gala, the servant of the falsy god Lindsay, is about killing something that's actually same for Final Fantasy 13, killing the souls of the people of Oriens and in their passing to the afterlife, open the Gate of Souls. And Arisha, which is the servant of Pulse, is trying to achieve like a savior figure, like a messiah, the figure. It's actually not just one person. It's actually a combination of many, which is Class Zero and Machina Rem. And in order to find the Agito, this savior figure that's powerful enough to open the gate, and in order to to achieve this, it comes a moment in which there's Tempus Finis, which is the end of time, and the castle and the land of judgment, Pandemonium, arises from the sea, and then the Class Zero has to prove that they have become Agito. If they fail, then the world is reset. Gala sends the Russian Reavers to kill everyone, and Arishi starts the cycle anew. And each cycle, each loop, is a try with the same outcome, but different alterations of events. So it's actually a test. Each cycle, an attempt to open the Gate of Souls. The whole thing about Type Zero is that they break the cycle. Because Arisha, in the end, decides to abandon the plan and let Machina and Rem live their lives in peace and remember the sacrifice of Class Zero, and allow the dead to be remembered. Yeah, it's something that's in Type Zero. The people don't remember. The people forget the crystal takes the memories of the deceased from the living as part of the world's thing. Anyways, yeah. So the whole thing about no more than a test makes me think so much of the method of Arisha, finding the finding Agito, ever feeding off the fallacy, creating this mess, feeding off the fallacy being a lie, feeding off the fallacy, creating this mess. So this is an interesting line, in the sense of history being rewritten before could be also the point in which all of this started to go to hell. So I don't know exactly which point could be. I could see the Sundering being one of them. I could see something before the time of the Ancients being one of them. I don't really know. It's just I just get the nagging feeling that history has been already rewritten first, and perhaps the first time was to try an attempt to erase Ultima back then even, and that's one of the reasons why perhaps the convocation themselves forgot about Ultima, or maybe it was a secret kept only to themselves. I don't really know. It could go so many ways, but I kind of have this feeling that history has already been rewritten at least once throughout the whole story. So that was a fantasy again. The whole thing, basically the Matrix stuff. Deep down inside this bleak machine with all of the rest. It's deep down inside this bleak machine, like the machine being it brings me so much to the concept of the gears. Alexander is a lot of gears, of course, but Type Zero is so much about gears as well, because they represent not just the cycle going, the cogs of the cycle, the cogs of the machinery that's keeping the cycle going and going and going, but also the people themselves in Oriens, Class Zero in particular, being the gears themselves, like forced to go through the same loop over and over. So break free, or two-phase electricity. This is an interesting. I don't really know. I only see electricity here, and it's interesting. But the two-phase electricity, I'm not really that familiar with the concept. Of course, I know break free from this bleak machine, break free from the cycle, this break free, all of that. But the two-phase electricity, I'm not that familiar with, and I must admit. So the thing about the original Warriors of Light in the Seventh Calamity, apparently in Legacy cutscenes, it's revealed that it was Hydaelyn who took the memory of the Warriors of Light and then restored them by the end of the legacy. But I mean, I take that as canon in a sense, but so many people have not played 1.0, so it would be something that they could retcon actually. But I mean, they could retcon that. I don't really know. I mean, I'm not a legacy player, so I would have, of course, missed that. So yeah, if you guys have an idea about two-phase electricity, I know. I know. I'm not sure if I know. All it brings to mind is the direct current and and alternate current and the whole thing about the whole switch thing. I don't know. I was never good at physics. Two-phase electricity. So yeah, if you guys have an idea, just share with me. Share. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I will have to go check myself into that. I usually do my homework and searching concepts I don't know of before that, but this one I have not. I must admit, but there's a lot on my. Okay, DC is one-way travel. This was okay. This is one-way travel. An alternate current, I suppose, is double back. Okay, okay. Two-phase electricity. Okay. One-way travel, AC doubles back. Okay. Alternate current. One-way travel. Okay, yeah, that's fine because they actually reference DC later on. Okay, thank you, Sant. It's actually really interesting. Two-phase alternate. Okay, doubles back, goes and go. Okay, okay. No, but it's actually a really good point, Sant. Thank you, because later on the lyrics reference DC. Okay. Okay, time turning up the volume. Time turning up the volume. The volume. So sound. Sound is interesting in like. There's so many things as volume. Turn up the volume of what? Turn up the volume of what exactly? Of what sound? What music? What word? We have to understand this as something that you can hear. Turn up the volume of what? Of which voice, perhaps? Which voice is time turning up the volume of? Time turning on as always. No time enough tomorrow for turning back to where we began. The concept about not time enough tomorrow was also being brought into the edge in Elizabeth's Warrior of Light. It's a concept that's also doubled down there. Not time enough tomorrow. Tomorrow's come too soon. Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, you could. Yeah. It's part of the concept for turning back to where you began. To the edge is also it's loaded too. Time turning as always. No time enough tomorrow for turning back to where you began. It feels to me like a race against time. A race against. You have a limited time to achieve something, which again, it's a really Final Fantasy 13 concept with DLC. You have a limited time to achieve this goal before the new cycle starts again, before turning back to where you began. So perhaps that's something that we're basically dealing with, that we have a time limit to achieve this before we're deemed that we haven't. I'm not going to answer my phone. It's basically it's just my it's my silent mode phone. Sorry, but yeah, maybe we're dealing on borrowed time. We're dealing on a time limit to achieve this ultimate goal that I suspect might be being able to defeat Ultima or break the cycle. I don't know. Could be all of them actually. but I do think that's maybe we have a time limit to achieve this before it's like, okay, we're just going to try again. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other input. Yeah, it does remind me a lot of To the Edge. So the thing about the lyrics of Shadowbringers, of many Shadowbringers lyrics, it feels like you have to kind of analyze Shadowbringers almost like as their own, in the sense of so much context of the lyrics of Shadowbringers of the whole expansion change with the concept of Ultima in your head, basically. To the edge, but past the far edge of fate, it's always it's such a constant theme. The thing about the far edge, the edge, it's like, what is the edge? One of the meanings of the far edge of fate, poetically speaking, is death. It's the end, far beyond, like the other shore, as in the river. Which one's the river? Styx is the river, one of the rivers of the underworld, the one that you basically ride on Karen's boat. So past the far edge of fate in some poetry context means the other side of the shore of the Styx. Yeah, the Styx. Thank you. The other shore, the Styx. So it would be the underworld. So it would be death, the end. So past the far edge of fate, like the end. Like it could be your own end, could be the end of the world itself, the end of this world as we know it, could be many things. I'm It's fine, but I don't think Meteon is part of this. I mean, could be, but I don't think it's actually the the interpretation here. Past the far edge of fate. If this is part of one world, all of this is part of one world, one cycle. I don't think fate is blind that realm though, because it's still subjected to the time loop. Anyways, so I don't think it's the case. I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's the same. I don't think it applies. I think the thing about Alexander is that it goes beyond that, beyond the events of Endwalker. Endwalker is not the end. There's I don't know how to explain it. Endwalker is part of one. Endwalker is part of this cycle, the events of this cycle, in this context. So it would all make sense that perhaps we have gone through defeating Meteon how many times, perhaps we don't know. But again, I doubt Meteon was the end goal here. Anyways, so it was kind of like, in an amusing way, I see Meteon as kind of like the disc one boss, but not the final boss. So so 22 sectors tested, fragments in one direction. Celestial noise detected, delirium unsuspected. It's delirium unsuspected. Delirium as in No, I don't think Alexander has the power to affect. Alexander doesn't affect the timeline either way. Alexander basically calculates timelines and possibilities. And there's the point in the... Sorry. There's the point in by the end of the Alexander race in which Alexander says that that he can no longer calculate fate and possibilities beyond that point, which I believe is actually the real edge beyond which Alexander cannot calculate anything, because it would be an entirely different cycle altogether, or cycle of reality. That's why I interpret of this request as of now. Maybe perhaps before, and Walker and me have considered Meteon to be that edge, but I don't think it's the case anymore. I mean, I could be wrong, of course, but that's... But Alexander, the thing about Alexander cannot influence timelines. Alexander basically calculates. Alexander is basically a big damn calculator. So yeah, 22 sectors tested. The number 22 is bugging me. I don't really know why. This feels so specific. 22. 22. I mean, going by 22 is basically 11 and 11 to put together. And if you add 2, then would have 24, which would be a double cycle of 12 and 12, which is kind of like the usual interpretation of the zodiac, basically. So, also cycles of 12 and 12 is a whole day as well. 12 and 12 is 12 hours of a day, 12 hours of, well, not 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, I suppose, could be, but quote unquote. So if you add I say if you add 2, because number 2 in terms of twinnings, siblings, twins, there's lots of number 2. So that's why I'm saying if you get 22, maybe you're missing another 2 to make a full 24. I don't know. It's kind of one of these thoughts I have. Fragments in one direction. That thing that you mentioned, Sant, that's interesting too, because one direction, it's not alternate current being 2 directions in which it's basically a loop, but one direction, it would be direct current. Celestial noise. All this right now, it's giving me so much Ultima, and also it's giving me so much of Drakengard vibes, and I don't know how to interpret that. Celestial noise being the bells that you hear in your mind when you have the watchers corrupting you. But I'm not so sure as to how much Drakengard you can pull into this. It's just that all I'm going to say that this reminds me so much of. I don't think it's Meteon. I don't think it's Meteon. Celestial noise, perhaps, but back then perhaps, but it's. But delirium unsuspected, delirium as in a trance unsuspected, a dream or a fever that you're not even realizing it's there. I think that's more Ultima, much more. Celestial, she is the spirit of holy. She's a celestial being. She's the high seraph. So yeah. Static turn into reason. Again, the concept of reason and logic, which is so it's reason again. This is a word so predominant in Dawntrail. As in fact, in Dawntrail, our enemy is the Queen of Reason, Sphene. So we're basically facing the kind of like the head of knowledge, in a sense, in Fabulando Crystallis with Lindsay so fitting when it comes to Ultima. Time in the ether deepen. Depends transmissions being incomplete. 72323 send. All this series of numbers, I'm sure they mean something, but I'm not that good with numbers. So when it comes to numbers, it's like because like what is the formula that you're going to use to this? 72323 send. Are you adding? Are you multiplying? What do you mean with the series? 72323 send. So 729 12 2 14 3 17. It doesn't really match anything I can think of if you add these numbers together. So it's kind of like I don't really think it's the patent either. 72323 23 23 7. I don't really know. Maybe there's something about numbers that I'm missing, and numbers are not my thing. 723 it's like what it means and said nothing, so I'm not sure. You don't add a sequence like this and means nothing. Maybe I know it can. I know it means something, but it could be something. Those, I mean, usually it was back then. It was Scotty folks who wrote these lyrics, so maybe they actually mean something for him in his mind in lore that we don't really need to understand. But the thing that it means something, I'm sure it means something, even if we're not meant to know what it means. Like, I'm even trying to think, like, in coding and cipher, what could these numbers mean if you translate to certain encrypting methods. But I'm not good at cryptology, so I only knew a few methods of numerical ciphers, and which one could be many. So there's so many encrypting methods of so yeah. It's rhyme, but it doesn't even rhyme 723 because the rhyme is send, not 3 with incompleted. It's kind of like yeah, they laugh at their suffering. They keep laughing at their suffering. Indeed, they're having so much fun at our expense. Okay, let's keep going. Anyways, arrested, destiny alone in a trance, no escaping from this wake dream, no hope for advance. Again, this is basically a repeat of this. It wasn't no more. No, sorry, of this one that goes you're caught in a trance. I mean, it's doubling down of the concept of this, but it's a kind of different here. Arrested destiny, arrested as in kept from you, like I give me kind of a definition for the word, please, 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 please. Right, that's the one I know. Halted destiny. Okay. Stopped, arrested. Okay. Prevent from advancing. Okay. No hope for advance. Okay. Like taken from you, arrested, halted. Yeah, it's being deprived of advance, deprived of. Yeah. Okay, I get it. Could be work in any sense. Arrested destiny is kind of like also taking your destiny away from you. It's like you don't no longer have the reins of your own destiny, but someone else is having the reins of your fate, which is you could go into the whole sundering and all that, but let's leave that for another moment, or we can leave that for discussion in the Discord server. But yeah, the whole thing arrested destiny, something like I get it, like someone is keeping you from choosing your destiny. You're alone in a trance, escaping from this waking dream, no hope for advance. Yeah, it also gives the sense of stagnancy. Basically, it gives the sense of you're stuck, you're not advancing, you're in stasis. That's the whole thing I'm getting here. It's like stasis. It gives me back to all of this. Gives me the fact of illusion, glamour, dream, stasis. That's the concepts I'm getting from Locus, basically. And the lyrics telling you, wake up and end the dream. So the mortal coil we serve is naught but spring. Unwind, too slow, too quick, too much to believe. That's also really interesting too. Unwind, as in unwinding, if I recall, is basically unraveling. Unwind, release. Yeah, it's not but spring. Not by the spring. The springs are basically coils. They're basically a spiral. That's why it makes me think so much of how the cycle is depicted in Type Zero is basically a spiral. That's that green crystal is actually Hope Seidoli from FFXIV. That's my way of mixing my two favorite characters in my avatar. So, okay. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So, not but the spring, not but the spring. Like again, the whole thing, the imagery of the spiral unwinds. So it's basically release, unwind, unravel, but then too slow, too quick, too much to believe. Too slow, too much to believe is interesting because like I do wonder if too much knowledge could overwhelm those who too much knowledge perhaps about Ultima herself can overwhelm maybe that's something that could be happening if Ultima feeds off of the cognition of deity of her, of knowledge of others about her. It could be something that actually she feeds off. Maybe she can take control of you if you know about her. It would be really, really, really creepy and really dangerous in the sense of if you are told too much about her, maybe that's almost like an instant sense of corruption. Like, too slow and perhaps you won't know enough to stop her. Too quick and perhaps she may be able to overwhelm you and corrupt you. It's really interesting. And another thing that's the thing about having to take a little bite by bite of this knowledge, perhaps maybe it brings me to mind, and I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but it brings to mind how Emmett Selkin's Shadowbringers shared with us knowledge. He didn't dump all of it on us. He basically offered us bit by bit. So I have to wonder if the Unsundered maybe I don't know. I am saying the Unsundered as a whole, but we know that La Habrea kind of lost his sanity and Elizabeth lost his memory. So perhaps if the Unsundered were the last legacy of this, of the knowledge of the threat, then maybe Emetzel was the only one who actually remembered the real threat and had to if it's a cognition hazard, it's really dangerous too. It would take a lot of bit by bit to not cause a disaster. But yeah, that's also true. Meteon. That's also a good example. Yeah, it's a good example. Yeah. So again, your worlds of fantasy, you failed the test. You failed the test. Again, the concept of the world being a test to the world being a test, the cycles being a test, perhaps to be able to defeat Ultima's corruption. Ever forging all new fallacies, creating more mess. It's really interesting too. This ever forging all new fallacies. Perhaps if you understand other branching timelines as fallacies, would be interesting too. Because with its loop, perhaps we're creating more and more and more timelines as well, and it's all more noise in the fabric of reality. It may come a point in which it basically breaks. Directly through this bleak machine with all of the rest. So I have to wonder if there may be a dumpster of previous cycle memories. Would be really interesting. There's like this every time a cycle happens and everything's erased, and there's like a backup of sorts of a dumpster of discarded memory, and it's so going somewhere else, and this is like maybe all of these following cycles are kind of based on data, quote unquote, collected from previous cycles as to try to change this and that, and maybe that all of this reality is stored somewhere else, and it's part of the reality as well, and it may have grown so much that it may be starting to affect reality itself, which is something that actually happens in 13.2. In that sense, it's not exactly the same, but I see really similar concepts. So DC, like the thing you mentioned before, Zen, DC. This, I mean, I know in this, DC is also it's short for disconnect. I know, but also direct current, one direction instead of two, dying electricity. So this kind of makes sense it makes sense to me, like disconnecting this cycle and restarting again, but it could also mean that the answer lies in breaking from the wheel, and instead of going back and forth all the time, going directly forward again in a new path forward. I mean, it could be disconnect because dying electricity. It's like switching the machine off. So it could be both. Honestly, I could see both. Sometimes, more often than not, lyrics have like more than one interpretation. Sorry. Yeah, this is kills too. Yeah. And then we go back to here. We go here. Falling back right into the system of falling back of all that's erased. That's one of the reasons I mentioned the thing about the quote-unquote hypothetical dumpster. Falling back right into the system of falling back all that's erased. When fighting back right out of the system means falling back right into this space, which is kind of it's a really interesting concept in the sense of maybe in the attempts of breaking from the wheel we believe it's there, it's actually making things worse. We're making the same mistakes. We're trying to fight back and break the wheel that we believe the wheel is. It's actually making things worse, basically going back into the thing that's preventing us from breaking from the wheel. It's such an interesting, it's so contradictory, would be so messed up in the sense of we're basically we're trying to fight out, like the whole thing about Endwalker fighting Meteon, saving the world, all of that. And it's actually, every time we go through that, it makes things worse. It could be even making things worse, but it could also be an inevitability in the sense of if we're basically repeating the loop, it's like it's like you're trying to struggle and you're only making it worse for you, like because you don't see the real problem. You're thinking like in the matrix, but you have to think outside the matrix. Like you don't right now, we may not even be aware that there's a matrix, but the moment we are aware that there is, that perhaps is that what will allow us to fight back proper, once we know what we're dealing with. Right now we're basically stumbling around, we're stumbling, and we don't even know what we are doing. We don't even know. Perhaps, I mean, if Ultima is an enemy that lives basically in all of us, which is so scary, like she can see and gets information from our eyes and our concept of deities, because she may feed off from that primordial concept of what a god is. It would be so creepy that all of the people in the world are basically acting as her eyes, and she's basically learning from us and watching us like one would watch a colony of ants in a crystal container. It's so messed up. I say it's so messed up. I really love this messed up concept. And yes, this like just falling back right in with the system will see you falling back to the end, when falling back is better than simply falling back into pieces again. This is an interesting, it's kind of, it's like a tongue twister. But it's actually really interesting. Falling back right in with the system, by right in with the system, who'll see you falling back to the end. So you're falling back to the end. Fall back to the end is an interesting concept because it's contradictory. Falling back should be falling to the beginning, but to the end should be well, back to the end. It's contradictory. As of though it's contradictory if we're reading from left to right, but if we're reading from right to left, then it makes sense. And well, reading right to left is how Hebrew and Arabic, for example, cultures read. Actually, Japanese. Actually, I think Japanese does read from right to left as well. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think the doujins in Japan, the anime, you have to read from back to from the end to the beginning, in a sense. No, I'm not an expert in manga and anime and manga and doujin, so so yeah, it's not exactly that. Like in the West, we read like left to right, but it's not the only way of reading a story. So that's really interesting, especially because the Lucavi, well, the Lucavi and well, the names of the convocation, all that. And Final Fantasy 12 in particular, Final Fantasy 12, not Tactics, but 12, it's actually based so much in Arabic culture. So it's really interesting to bear that in mind. And well, the whole thing about the names of many of the convocation seats are actually either Aramaic, Hebrew, or Arabic in nature. So it's really interesting to bear in mind that reading from left to right is not the only way of reading a story. You can also read from right to left, in a sense, like backwards for us, I suppose. You get what I'm trying to feel and trying to say. So you're falling back to the end, when falling back is better than simply falling back into pieces again. Falling back is better than simple. This kind of reminds me of the Sundering, but I don't know. I will. Maybe I'm. Or falling back into pieces again could be the Sundering, but could also be the branching of timelines. Could be the branching of the branching of timelines, like shattering reality. So when falling back is better than simply falling back, basically. Like when falling back, going back in time. So I'm suspecting perhaps that in 9.0, if it's the end of the arc, I suspect we will be going to some point. I don't know if in the past or in another reality, or maybe at the start of the cycle, and destroy Ultima at the source before and erase the whole thing, the whole events of the whole course of events of what happened after, well, whatever happened, and create a new history. That could be a lie, but sometimes you have to make your own world, you know? That's something that happens. No, I don't think the end of the arc will likely be 11.0 though, because Yoshi P did mention before Dawntrail's release that they had in mind 3 expansions for the new arc. One is Dawntrail, so we will have 2 more if they adhere to to what he said. Of course, it could change, but he mentioned prior to Dawntrail's release that the new arc, kind of right now, kind of know it's a sequel to the first arc, would be 3 expansions. So I'm operating from that. So could change, yeah, it could change, but yeah. I could see 14.0 be the end of 14, but not the end of the arc. So that's something quite interesting. Okay, I'm not going to end at this point, so let's keep moving. Silent, still breathing. Silent, still breathing. It's a contradictory concept. It's like it's machine breathing, but I could see silent still as the machine. Perhaps it could be, if it refers to Alexander, I could see Alexander being a metaphor for the land itself, so for the star itself. So it could be in that sense. The fact that the land is alive, and it could be basically an allegory of primordial zodiac as well. But yeah, so memory writing, reading, and then ever repeat deleting. Memory writing, reading, ever repeat deleting. Deleting memories, we already seen that in Alexandria. It's part of the end of the dungeon. Memory writing, reading. Memory writing, it's could be so creepy. Like, all of this could be fabricated memories. And reading, memory writing, it could be fabricated memories. I'm not sure to how extent they are, but it could be memory writing, reading, or it could be every memory writing could be the cycle itself as the memories of all the people and all the events, and then reading, and then there's an error, and then you repeat deleting. So all this passage kind of reminds me so much of the whole thing about how the cycle may work. Silent, still breathing could be the awakening of the land itself, as in my theory of primordial zodiac, forcing like the reset every time in an attempt to find a way to defeat Ultima. It could be like the awakening, and then reading, and the memory writing, reading the memory, and there's an error, we have failed, and then it's another delete of all the thing. So it could be a reading. I don't know what you guys may think about that. It's one possible reading is as on where I'm now. Radicals flowing free. Radicals. I know radicals. Their numbers is like, but I am like, again, I suck with numbers. I really suck with numbers. So radicals is basically, fuck. Help. Some help. I know it's like the root number, all that concept and all that, but okay, physical entropy, that makes sense too. It's all calculations. I know all of this is fucking calculations, but that's a problem. I suck at math, so all of this is sometimes like, outside of the norm. Okay. Radicals flowing free outside norm. Okay. Radicals flowing free. It's interesting. Yeah. A metaphor for chaos. Okay. 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 Radicals flowing free. It could mean, I suppose, you could say it's some. You could say it's maybe stand in for singularities. Singularities, as in the concept of people who can actually influence the timeline or influence the loop or break from the matrix if you want to. It would be like the free element that can actually exert change. In which, in this scenario, I would say definitely atom, bar, the word of light, and assault. Like the two elements. But yeah, free radicals. Okay. Basic entropy as long as something keeps up. Okay. Free radicals. Basic entropy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense too, in the sense of normal cell division. The longer something keeps going, the more those build up. Isn't that the source for source of cancer? Like sometimes cells go wild and they start multiplying, and that's what causes a cancer. I think. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think that's yeah. Okay, like corruption. Okay. 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 Records flowing free. Okay. So this is likely two. This is likely a two meaning, a two layered sentence here. Could be both things. Yeah. Okay. Energy slowly seeping. It's basically a loose of energy, I suppose. Slowly seeping. A loose of energy, of power, of. I suspect this is a complete sentence. It's just split weird, but I suspect the whole sentence is suspending all disbelief in synergy with her being. Suspend disbelief is like this concept. I think I recall suspending disbelief is the concept that you require in order to understand, in order to not raise your eyebrows constantly at fiction, especially fantasy or maybe sci-fi content. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why I recall that's the line, that's the concept about suspending disbelief. But I could be wrong. Please explain if I'm wrong. Okay, unpaired electrons. That's really interesting too. Chemistry or radicals and also radical normal. Okay. I'm gonna have negative mass. Okay. Okay, suspension of disbelief is basically accepting the limitations of a work of fiction or a play. Okay. Okay. So suspending all disbelief in synergy with her being would mean, I mean, in a sense, humans are conditioned to fall into comfort. This is something that I actually learned back in my very first year of my degree. That especially in fine arts, in the world of arts, the older someone gets, when you challenge their beliefs, they will react more aggressively towards you, because older people means when you challenge the older people to their beliefs, you're basically shaking more and more the greater lengths of foundations they have built upon themselves as to how they understand life. So the reaction is much more aggressive and negative, as compared to a young a young individual whom you're challenging their beliefs and trying to get them to think otherwise. So, uh, it was basically used this example as to exemplify that humans by nature we tend to want to fall into comfort, as to not be bothered by the harshness of reality. It's like it's the whole thing about the red pill and the blue pill over again. The the principle of reality versus the principle of comfort. So suspending all disbelief would be like a requirement for us to not question the nature of the world. That's how I understand, anyways. And synapses. I read about because I searched this word for a previous analysis of locus, and I think the kind of like the electric pulse that neurons emit between themselves in thought process. Okay, so it's interesting. It's like suspending all disbelief, but at the same time, there is basically start thinking as of now. It's like counting you to okay. Now you can start thinking, and let's see if the cycle it's maybe may reach a different end. It's how I could read that, but it's the concept, anyways, that matters here. The fact that's basically the electric charge, the electric pulse of thought. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of electricity in all of these concepts, and it matches so well with the whole thing about Alexandria and electrope and electricity and lightning, all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, like Gestalt indeed. Yeah, synergy too. Uh, that's basically that's basically also a definition of what is the ASEAN prime. It's basically a combination. You basically synergize two souls, and they become something else. And it's not like it's basically an entity that's the sum of the parts, but also a whole different entity altogether. It's really interesting too. Like, but yeah, like Gestalt. Yeah, it's a combination. So that's why I'm kind of crossing my fingers at some point in the arc to get an ASEAN Prime, the Warrior of Light, maybe with Hades, maybe another ASEAN. But I'm betting on Hades. I really want an ASEAN Prime moment, like what kind of feature could be the result of that, like the combination of yeah. It's I'm really curious about really curious uh, about that concept, and yeah. Okay, so uh, so I don't know how long it took us. Basically, 2 hours to analyze Locus. We could do a series of this, basically. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. I can go for hours. Like I don't really have a timer here. I can go for hours, but if you guys want to drop out at any moment, uh, feel free. I just can be awake for a long while, so feel free to drop out whenever. Okay, next song. Let me get a bit of something to eat. I'm going to start. I'm just putting some food going, but but um, but I will be like, give me 3-4 minutes, and I will be back. And I'm going to leave you with music. I don't know which one I could use this time. Give me a moment. One good, one good. One theme. Hmm. 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 I wanted to find a proper extended one. No, it's not my favorite. Not my favorite one. It's not there. Ah, okay. Okay, this should serve. I am tentatively returned. Tentatively because I have to go back to check the food in a few minutes. But don't you love it when you're trying to open a can or something that has like a plastic film, and you're trying to remove it by your teeth, and you break like the thing that you're supposed to pull from to open it, and you'll have to go fetch a stupid knife to open it. Damn it. So yeah. So I'll go check in like maybe 5 minutes. And after that you're going to have me hear, you have to be hearing me munching on food, but my apologies, but I haven't eaten in all day, so I need to eat. By this point I do have to. Okay. So next song we may go over. I have 2 suggestions. Sorry, what the fuck? Give me a moment. Oh, sorry. There we go. That's Locus. Okay. So I have 2 suggestions for the next one. But one of them I don't know if there's the official lyrics out there in YouTube, which would be, I have 2 suggestions for the next one. One would be the Worm's Tale, which is Shinryu, snakes, and another kind of quote unquote snake one would be End Color for Primal Zodiac. Both are really interesting to go through. I'm actually kind of in the middle of analyzing the Worm's Tale myself. So, for context, both the Worm's Tale and where is End Color? Okay, End Color here. Both were one of these cases in which, when they were originally released, there were no lyrics to the theme. They were released for Distant Worlds performances or Eorzean symphonies or Ultimate Fights. So End Color does have lyrics. It's originally it was sung in the quote unquote ancient language, but they added the lyrics for the Eorzean symphony. So. So, and it's really, really interesting, the theme of the theme of Zodiac. Do you want to go since you it's shorter, so maybe we can go through End Color first, and then later with the Worm's Tale, which is much longer. So yeah. So I don't know if we do have the official lyrics. Let me check if we do have the. Sorry. Okay, yeah, we do have them. Okay, it's not the. Okay. Thank you. So we can go through End Color, and then we can go through Worm's Tale. Yeah, snakes. I mean, Zodiac is based on snake in a sense. So yeah, snakes. Also, if you're thinking of Primordial Zodiac in this theme, it's quite interesting. Okay, but there's some really curious things about the theme of End Color that I really want to bring up. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, so there's like the conclusion there. I'm going to let it loop again. Silence. Stand up, silence. Turn circles down. The middle. It's actually it is it gave me so much brainworms the first time I was like, oh, does End Color has actually a lyrical version? I was like, when I read that, and it's like, this is not exactly the kind of song you use for an antagonistic entity, you know. I'm going to check on my dinner and leave you with. I mean, I would like to leave you with the entire lyrics, but this should work as yeah. You can mull on them, and I'm going to check on my to 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 see if I can. It doesn't burn. Okay, I have food now. Sorry for the delay. I had to serve and all that stuff, and then accidentally I broke a little too enthusiastically an egg, so there's that. But I am returned. Okay. Okay, now I'm set. Apologies for the wait. There we go, there we go. You guys have been in Distant Worlds. I've only been once to Distant Worlds, many years ago. But it was worth it. So, yeah. So, okay. So, end color. We were going about end color. So, there's something really interesting. First thing about end color, there's something really interesting about end color, and it being basically Zodiac's theme. Primal Zodiac, but then again, you can usually it's the closest thing to a primordial Zodiac we have. Yes, lots of lyrics are pulled from other expansions. Expansions, in fact, lots of it from Endwalker, of course. The main Endwalker theme, it's there. Forge Ahead, Forge Ahead, Forge Ahead. We have Stormer Blood. Stormer Blood inside us, Burn from Blood inside us. We have Shadowbringers, two tones, echoes down, tumbling down from down. You're from Freedom. This is not exactly from Stormblood, but it's used in the Stormblood section of Endwalker, of Footfalls. Should the loser wait all of the Spain, will be afraid to forge ahead. This is from Footfalls as well. Tales of Loss and Fire and Fate, that's of course Ultima Thule, Close in the Distance. Souls Aligned. Well, Hearts Aligned is the theme of the second phase of The Endsinger. Yeah, it's basically, most of it's actually Footfalls, but it's kind of worded kind of different in a sense. It's a little bit wording. I do think Footfalls is another kind of Worms on its own in regards to the next cycle, but well, all of the main themes of the expansions are, to be fair, but and Footfalls as well. And a different reading of Footfalls is do actually. So it's only from main color, yes. It references, yeah, most of these are referencing but not the same. Like Shadowbringers is two-toned echoes tumbling through time, but two-tones echoes down, tumbling down. It's different. The wording is different. The whole about the chorus, the chorus rings. It's in Footfalls as well, but also brings back to mind Heaven's Word and the chorus of the dragons. So all of these are basically themes from previous expansions themes. And then, of course, we have the Song of Hope, which is something quite interesting. The theme of the Song of Hope. This is so interesting because most people, I've seen so many people liken the Song of Hope to Hydaelyn and also to Meteon, which I would say Meteon perhaps is more appropriate in the context of Endwalker. But when it comes to there's no actually reference to the Song of Hope to Hydaelyn. This is the first time the Song of Hope ever happens in the proper story, aside from with Hearts Aligned, with this the second phase of Meteon, which you could say is actually not so much about Meteon, but the Warrior of Light because it's also a rearrangement of the Maker's Ruin. So, but instead, we don't find the Song of Hope associated with Hydaelyn. We find it associated with Zodiac, which is the amusing thing. That's actually here with Zodiac. That's the thing. Uh, I suppose one of the reasons there's like this misleading is the she, because we associate this with a female entity when Zodiac is a male, as the same as the land. But if Zodiac is meant to be the land, there would be a twist here in which it would be, instead of the mother, it would be the father. But again, we're playing with the thing about the world being reversed, the world being understood like upside down. Perhaps our understanding of the mother is wrong, and we're actually looking at the father. So it's quite interesting that this could be a play on what we understand as reality. But yeah, the Song of Hope. It's one of the things like when we fight Hydaelyn, it's a rearrangement of answers. But aside from not having lyrics, it's kind of aside from the chorus of witness of, well, that chorus, it doesn't really have lyrics, your answer. But this one is an entire song with lyrics. Is really really interesting in the context of and it's basically the encouragement to forge ahead, coming from Locus, in which the encouragement is to break from the wheel of the cycle, to forge ahead and advance. It's marching forward. When we come from the interpretation of Locus, that we're stuck in a loop, but this instead is telling us to go forward. And there's this interesting thing that the name is Endcaller, of course. In Endwalker context, it means Endcaller because Fan Daniel is controlling Zodiac, and as he kills Zodiac, he brings on the final days. So that's the meaning of, in Endwalker proper, what it means, the name. But if Endcaller refers to Zodiac as in the proper the primordial form, that may be trying to break the cycle, could be the Endcaller in a different sense. Could be like stopping, like ending this, like thinking, like speaking of ending the world, ending our reality. I know it sounds like a bad thing to do, but we're going from we're in Dawn Trail. We've been established that we're basically fighting the concept of not basically the concept of infinity, of of this endless concept, like this baseless, this almost poisonous preservation clinging to life. So if this is what it means, because the whole thing about you have to end to see a new beginning, instead of repeating and repeating and repeating, then maybe ending our current reality is the only way out. So in this aspect, it would be brutal. I know it would be an extremely radical decision, and you know how we tend to see death and endings, but it could actually be the way to escape. So yeah, it's really interesting, the constant encouragement of marching forward, ever forward, and forge ahead, carry on, and ever strong. This song is basically an encouragement. The song is basically encouraging you. Don't be afraid. Go on and forge ahead, basically. I mean, it's part of my speculation, in a sense, that if the ancients decided to name this god that would save them, I mean, yeah, Zodiac is really interesting in that aspect too, because you see how Zodiac manifests when we kind of interact with him, quote unquote. It's actually, we see Zodiac as a mass of many souls. So I'm not sure if they, I'm not sure to what extent the ancients or the Asians actually saw Zodiac as a single entity and more like a manifestation of their own people, of humanity. It's really interesting because in that aspect, yeah, it's kind of like a deified concept, but at the same time, they may actually not be worshiping a god, but actually praising their own people. So it's very different from the concept of a single entity deity as it is Heidelin. It's Zodiac is very different. It's like a concept of unity of many souls, in which, in contrast to Heidelin, which is only one entity. So there's also you could do a reading here and all that, and yeah, but yeah, it's interesting, like in yeah, but I mean, we don't really get to see how Zodiac was like with Elidibus, like inside as the core. So it's, as far as we know, as we operate Zodiac, as far as we understand Zodiac, is basically the amalgamation of, well, basically at that point was humanity, 2/3 of humanity, which is no small deal. It's almost like basically, I mean, I know it's a deified concept, all the same in a sense, but it's still like it's very different from. It's basically kind of a worship of the concept of humanity, of what humanity can do when they join hands together. It's complex. You could go philosophical with what actually Zodiac meant to to the ancients. So yeah, it's really interesting how Encoder works this. But I chose Encoder because it was relatively easy to understand. Uh, I think it's kind of like how darkness tends to manifest. Like the ancients did not understand light and darkness as good and evil, but you basically see the light, pure light, manifesting as angelic entities with feathers, white, all the stuff, and you see the darkness entities manifesting with tentacle, roots, fangs, horns, kind of but I don't think the ancients really paid much attention to the manifestation of it. It could be simply just a matter of, well, this is how it manifests. But as the Sunder beings started to associate light with good and dark with evil, it's when the connotation began to form as part of this kind of concocted reality, in a sense. Yes. They actually, so yes, that's actually right. Quite interesting because those icons of Zodiac, I'm kind of wondering if that may have been a concept of sorts of maybe primordial Zodiac in a human guise. I don't know. Could be because the figure is associated with Zodiac, so maybe it's kind of like in their minds this kind of possible savior figure from the from the ancient past that they don't even remember proper. I don't know. There's so many interesting things that could be done with that concept of the with that. Yes. It's really interesting. Like I do agree. I don't think we're. I mean, when you're basically talking about Heidelin and Zodiac, I understand that we're done with Zodiac as in the primal form, but not the what could be the real deal. Especially if we're going into Ultima and Final Fantasy 12 and the Lucavi, because Ultima and Zodiac are they're direct opposites, and there's this constant theme of Zodiac uh, opposing, well, opposing. He opposed Ultima more like in a sense of, I'm going to, in tactics at least, his approach to opposing Ultima was basically, I'm going to get to isolate myself as to not let Ultima mess with me and not harm anyway with my powers, because he's so absurdly powerful. That's the thing with Zodiac. He's so powerful that the gods had to keep him immature So yeah. Hey Raiders, welcome. We're discussing lore and and songs and music and lyrics. So welcome if you want to say. So yeah. So there's that. So yeah, this is really interesting that they actually added. We're actually added this sort of lyrics for Endcaller for Zodiac. It's really interesting. Again, this is Endwalker, which means they added these lyrics after the story was done, which it's basically putting them in new arc content. So yeah, so that's why these sort of lyrics from Endwalker I take. I those lyrics that were released in Endwalker, I'm like, there's something going on here. So this was the short one, and then snack. We'll go to the Wormtail. The Wormtail. Snack. Shinryu. Okay, let me see. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put this. Fuck's sake. Okay, and I'm going to go for the Worm's Tail. As you see here, I basically started to work on the Worm's Tail, but I still have a way to go. So, okay. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. There we go. I have to say, after Don't really finding more respect for Stormblood, I have to say. Oh, moment, I'm trying to hide it. I mean, yeah, there we go. No, no, no. I mean, that's me anyways, but that's my... I don't really mind anyway. So yeah, that's me though. There's no actually other people comments, so... Okay, so... Wormstail, like this one, Don the Mask of Blind Betrayal. I have like some sort of... you can read my musings here if you want. But Come Down the Mask of Blind Betrayal. So interesting because masks always bring immediately to mind the ancients and the Asians. It's kind of like, at this point, it's like this immediate mental image, the mental concept, like mask basically brings you to the ancients and the Asians. And then Earth does the head devour itself. That's basically the Ouroboros. That's the symbol of the alchemy, the serpent that eats its tail. So when I mentioned snake, Shiryu is a snake. It's a winged snake after all. In a sense, it's so similar to Final Fantasy XII Zodiac. It's basically a winged snake. Different, of course, but kind of like how it is. But Earth does the head devour its tail. That's definitely a dead ringer for the Ouroboros, the symbol of alchemy. And yeah, so as iron bends to steel, over my rivals I prevail. This one here, well, I did have my notations here. As iron bends to steel, as iron understood as the clapping irons, the chains that are holding someone back, bends to steel. Because, I mean, of course, steel's harder than iron, but you can also understand this as iron bends to those who are willing to fight, to wield the steel, who wield the sword. I mean, I know that's the concept of it. Yes, I do know that's how it means, but I mean, I'm giving you my interpretation, like on a wider scope. As iron bends to steel, or my rivals I prevail. So this is really interesting. Too. Because there's only 2 instances so far in Final Fantasy XIV that we have had Latin lyrics. So I know people tend to associate Latin with Final Fantasy. It's not like a rule of thumb. It did started to happen with Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and there was a gap in there in which there, as far as I recall, there were no Latin lyrics. And then Fabula Nova Crystallis does go hard into the Latin lyrics, because Latin is understood in Fabula Nova Crystallis as the language of the gods. So that's, 11 was Esperanto. So that's why immediately giving Latin lyrics brings me so much. Immediately, it's like a trip to 13. It's everywhere in 13. Almost every lyric in 13, when it comes to Falsi and all that, and the gods, is Latin. So, Ecce venio, ego primus et novissimus. Behold, I am come, I am the beginning and the end. Again, yes, you did mention in chat Sephiroth, the lyrics of Fiend. I am the end and the beginning, and the beginning and the end. That's basically what the Ouroboros is: the beginning and the end. It's the alpha and the omega, if you want to go that way. Ecce venio, ego finis et principium. Behold, I am come, I am the last, I am the first. It's really interesting too, because it says I am the last and I am the first. So it's interesting in terms of Zodiac as well, because I mean, Ophiuchus is not exactly the last Zodiac symbol, but it's addresses the last usually you find in the Evilist games or the Zodiac games, because it's kind of like the hidden secret 13th symbol of the zodiac. So this 13th sign of the zodiac. So it's kind of like the last in that sense, even though in the proper zodiac, in the proper zodiac in which Ophiuchus would be introduced, it would not exactly be the last. I think Ophiuchus is like in between Libra and Scorpio, but in terms of how it's used in Ivalice and zodiac content in Final Fantasy, yes, it's definitely the last. But it says it's also the first. I am the last, but I am also the first. Could be that Zodiac is actually the original proper deity, though I do believe that perhaps that makes more sense that it would be Ultima and Zodiac, in the sense of like they are both these two entities, one of holy and the other of dark. But I don't know. It could mean so many things. But also, I'm the last and the first. So interesting. But yeah, I am the Alpha and the Omega. Yeah, that's also another. If we go into Omega, I do have where is it? It is From the Heavens. I do have it's the one I do have fully analyzed. It gets wild. Yeah, Omega gets wild. So, duty lost in liberty, found lost in loyalty lost, found in liberty, found most is loyal. This is a tongue twister, and I have to say that's one of these. This is one of the things, one of the stanzas that I'm kind of like, what does it mean? It's a loopy lyric. Yeah, it is. Duty lost in liberty, found in lost in loyalty lost, found in liberty. I don't know if this is actually a split and this is a different part, or this is all an entirety, as an entire statement. Yeah, it goes around. Duty lost in liberty, found lost in loyalty lost, found in liberty, found lost loyalty. You would have to you would have to split this thing in many ways. Like, understand duty lost in liberty, liberty lost, liberty found. No, sorry, duty lost in liberty, liberty found, as in liberty found lost in loyalty lost, loyalty lost found in liberty, liberty found most is loyal. It's really interesting. That like you could kind of like to have to split this stanza in the last word from the previous line into the next one to make it actually have more sense. Like, in liberty found lost in loyalty lost, and then in loyalty lost found in liberty, and then liberty found must is loyal. That's how I would split that, and then going into analyzing that could be another can of worms. But that's how I would split that, like trying to go from the last word of this into the next one. It would make sense too. Like, it's like this whole thing is playing with the concept of the head devouring its tail. It's like a loop. It's a whole damn loop, and divided into smaller loops. Duty lost in liberty, liberty found lost in loyalty lost. I keep going into that because it's a tongue twister. I do have to. I would have to drag Neela here and help me with dissecting this, actually. But it's something that it's where I would go into dissecting this beast of a stanza. That's only just 4 lines, but so messy. Like, it's even more so for a non-native English speaker like me, like myself. Yeah. And then we go back again. Ecce venio ego primus et novissimus, ecce venio ego finis et principium. That's basically the whole repeat of this, basically. I am come, I am the beginning and the end, I am the last and the first. Yes, very playful, yeah. Again, storm of blood, born from blood of our fallen brothers, born upon our hands, cradle in our arms, swelling in our hearts. This is basically the theme of, well, the trailer theme of Stormblood. Stormblood, born from blood of our fallen brothers. raise your weary head, heed the call to arms, ring in your heart. That's something really interesting as of Stormblood. When I started to think of Stormblood context in this new arc, it gets so interesting in the fact of the theme of Stormblood is basically a theme of revolution. It's actually the name of the theme song of Stormblood is Revolutions. Basically, rebelling against the one who's actually oppressing you. Its revolutions have not been exactly my cup of tea narrative when it comes to nations and rebel movements, because of there's so much when in fiction can be a lot of hypocrisy surrounding these sort of movements. But I don't really want to go into that rant. That's one of the reasons Stormblood back then I didn't really like the theme, because like I said, I don't really resonate with the thing about the evil empire. Let's rebel against the evil empire. It's so, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. However, telling the gods to scram, that's actually more my jam. And if you understand the theme of revolutions against the oppressive deities, things change, because that's the theme of Fabula Nova Crystallis, basically telling the gods to scram. This is humanity's world. That's true. Yeah, it does rhyme. But this is so interesting, as in raise your weary head, heed the call to arms, ring in your heart. So interesting in the sense of so interesting in the sense of, instead of the call to arms against the nation, it becomes a call to arms against the oppressing deity. It could be paying heed to call to arms against basically a god, and fighting and all this treaded path of death and conflict and war, and all this old song that may have been over and over and over, and it's like we're so, at the end we're so broken we don't even question it anymore. But still, raise your head. This line also kind of reminds me of it's kind of like the same concept of stand tall, my friend. Stand tall, raise your head, heed the call to arms, ring in your heart. It's basically a call to arms, like fight, don't roll over and die, basically. We go back to this and this and this, and there's something really interesting here. Storm of blood, Sworn in blood, forged in fire and thunder. So interesting. And this line here changed so much meaning and context come Dawntrail, because let me show you. What's the name of the theme of Vanguard? So if you don't know what it means, fulgur means lightning in Latin. So it changes completely the context of this line, of this lyric here, because Vanguard is our entry into this new arc. It's basically the dome into the new arc of, we could say Ultima, we could say the thing about the loop, whatever you want to say, but it's definitely the entry into the new arc. So forged in fire and thunder, it's basically in fulgur and fire. It's the same, and it's like, what does fire and thunder mean in this context then? I do have a couple of theories about what fire and thunder mean. I think there's an association. I would say the Warrior of Light, or Ascent perhaps, would fit thunder or lightning, and I would say perhaps Hades would fit fire, since we already seen the fire association with him down in Amarot with the whole scene when going to the dungeon and stuff, the fires of hell. So yeah, there's an association there. So Thunder, I would say it's actually Asm, or the Warrior of Light. Thunder is usually, lightning is in is so often associated with justice, with divine justice, divine punishment. So it's also really interesting to bear that in mind. Fire, in this context, you could say it's the fire of condemnation. Like you, after you strike someone with thunder who has committed evil deeds, you would send them to the fires of hell. It's interesting, like the ways it could play out. Of course, going into fire, this could be another episode actually. Going into fire, yeah, 14 Crimson is Rubicante. That's another loaded one too. 14 Fire and Thunder. The thing about fire, I mentioned this. I think it was in the Ultimate video. The second part of it. You have to bear in mind Final Fantasy 16 is so important because it's the product of the mind of creative business unit 3, which is the 14 team. So, and there it does reference 14 in so many ways as well. So when approaching this whole analysis, I'm using two material from 16 for this because I could the summarized version of it is I do believe there's going to be a reference as the Warrior of Light Asm and Hades as Clive and Joshua. So I went into the lyrics for the themes of Phoenix and Ifrit, and they're also loaded, so loaded. But I don't know if that's something I want to cover this because it could get long. But yeah, Stomach Blood, Sorn in Blood. It's really it's really interesting. And if indeed Fire and Thunder refers to the Warrior of Light or Asm and Hades, then Sorn in Blood takes a different meaning here as well. So, Neath Burn Skies, Kindred Lives, Brave the Search Together. Of course, Neath Burn Skies, the first thing that comes to your mind would be the final days, the sky burning. But this is different too, because it's not Neath Burning Skies, it's Neath Burnt Skies, It's a difference. Like, burning would be if they were actually burning, like we see them in the final days. But burnt could be like the aftermath of it. Like, I don't know how you would perhaps read that. Burnt is a different context than burning. Burning is the red fiery thing. Burnt is the ashes and the grey. Kindred Lives, Brave the Surge Together. Brave the Surge, so interesting too, because the Surge is also a storm. It brings me to mind how Dawn Trail starts. Dawn Trail starts with the crew braving the storm together. I don't think it's going to be exactly the same by the end of the arc and what it means, but it's still as interesting as to how it did start. So yeah. Again, Storm. The thing about Starblood, it's Brave the Surge Together. Yeah, Kindred Lives, Brave the Surge Together. Yeah, and then we go back to some blood and blood. That's the same stanza, and then turn your eyes ahead, cast aside the dark, ever trust your heart. It's interesting in this context to cast aside the dark, but we know that there's different meanings as to what the light is and what the dark is. Turn your eyes ahead. Ever trust your heart, cast aside the dark. So it's interesting too, because in this context, if we're going to face Ultima, for example, and Zodiac may work as an ally to our side, then the dark would be our ally and the light would be our enemy. But there's different meanings as to what actually light and darkness may mean. And for example, dark doesn't have to be the concept of darkness, but the concept of being blinded. For example, blinded by light is actually one of the main most known songs in Final Fantasy 13. But it's actually a thing that you can actually be blinded by light and not see a thing. So it's a different sort of dark in this aspect, if you ask me. Turn your eyes ahead means, again, it's the whole thing about looking forward. And trust your heart is trusting your heart. This combination is really interesting. Cast aside the dark and never trust your heart is so interesting. Cast aside blinding delusions. Cast aside the blind, the veil, the like the it could be even the blindfold over your eyes. Trust not what you see, but trust what you feel. Trust what you believe. Basically, trust what you yourself believe, not what your eyes are telling you to believe. It's almost calling into question what you see, the sense the or sense of sight, because in the end that's actually true. Human sense of sight is not exactly perfect. It's actually far from perfect. We do see things in a really limited way, so that's why illusion and visual tricks play mess with our brains, because our sense of sight is not like as acute as could be in other living beings. So yeah, trust what you see. Don't really trust what you see. Also the fact that we do see things as they are because of how the light reflects, how everything reflects light. So all that we actually see is a reflection of light. So it's quite interesting in the terms of the illusion that we see the world depending on how materials absorb or reflect light. So yeah, it's really really interesting as the concept of glamour, the concept of optic illusions and all that stuff. Yeah, and again it ties with Ultima and the eye motive again. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, I do have this kind of, but I do have to finish this analysis here. But yeah, yes. No, there are eyes everywhere. Whenever you start to look for them, you're going to see them everywhere. It's almost it's going to drive you paranoid. So is there another song you want to go over? I do intend to go to host another stream of music tomorrow. So maybe we can call it like a day for today, and tomorrow earlier on I can go into stream. I went too late today into stream because I had to sleep basically, but and then I had a bit of trouble setting up the stream after so long. But tomorrow I could go and stream much earlier if you guys are around, and do another round of it. Yeah, flesh vessel. Yeah. So do tell me what you guys prefer to continue tomorrow. So everyone's here. So. Okay, then let's go. Let's do that. Uh, okay, so let's do that. I'm going to end the stream here, and thank you so much for you guys joining me and helping me with analyzing the lyrics and stuff and bearing with me. A prog. It sucks. But I do wish you for the best in Savage prog. But anyways, you can still catch the VOD, and of course you guys can ping me in the Discord server for discussing these things further. If you want, for example, the master file, I can share. I still have a lot of work to do with this thing, and even anyways, I'm basically right now in the process of jotting down ideas and thoughts, but I do have to run a proper analysis of them. And your help is really, really, really so appreciated, because some words sometimes like what's that actually properly mean. So yeah. So yeah, let's do that tomorrow. To you guys interested, be basically um, keep an eye out for the announcements and the stream live. And if you guys want, I can also ping you for hey, we're starting now. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, I really hope you guys had a good time. I really had a great time having the experience of going live with you guys uh, with these things, which I can't usually go through, because analyzing music is such a complicated thing. Uh, Complicated, well, not complicated, but more like it requires a lot of uh, brain squinting, so to speak. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I do hope to keep doing this on the future. So I'm also planning to stream. I'm also planning to stream come September with Co-op Final Fantasy VI. And I do owe him, because he played Type Zero, so I have to play Final Fantasy VI myself, and I will be streaming it. And I am planning to stream Final Fantasy Tactics Advance myself, maybe with a Yumi on board. So I do hope you guys are looking forward to our future content. I will be. I hopefully will have a better setup for this stream, having the chat and all that stuff in the screen and all that. But for now, I make do with what I have basically. But okay, I don't steal more time from you guys. So tomorrow I will ping you guys for another session. So yeah, see ya.